This is the Epic Brum podcast, and we're in conversation with Birmingham's very own MasterChef. Brummie chef Stu Deeley was crowned champion of the BBC show MasterChef The Professionals in 2019. Having worked at a number of Birmingham's top restaurants, he decided to go it alone, with plans in place for him to open his own restaurant in the coming months. We caught up with Stu at the iconic Michelin star restaurant Simpson's, where he's been running his popular Stu Deeley at Home takeaway and delivery service. Stu, thanks for joining us on the Epic Brum podcast. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm obviously looking forward to it. It's good to have a chat about what we're up to, and yeah.
Yeah, you've been a busy boy, haven't you? Stu Deeley at Home's gone really well and really captured the imagination.
Yeah, so it's been kind of 2 weeks since Stu Deeley at Home went nationwide. That means that now we're doing around 100 people a week, which is great because there's two of us cooking in the kitchen, and we're getting to kind of showcase the food that we want to do, and for people to have it at home is brilliant.
Yeah, we had it ourselves a few weeks back and we loved it, and not just because you're getting amazing sort of quality food, but you're kind of more or less getting a masterclass off a professional chef as well, which is something that's really appealing to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's something we didn't really think about when we first had the idea, is that people go to restaurants and they almost take things for granted, myself included. When you go to a restaurant, you just want nice food, you want to sit down in a nice environment, nice music, nice wine, everything else. And there's a lot of those elements that you have to get right when you're providing a home package. And I think that's something that's been quite challenging and something that we've had to work towards, but we're on the right path.
And those little videos that you've been sending out as well with the sort of step-by-step of that, is that been a bit of a challenge or a bit of fun, making sure you've got to get it absolutely right for the camera? I
just have to go through the videos with a fine tooth comb just to make sure I'm not swearing or doing anything I shouldn't be, to be honest, which is the interesting bit. But it's been good fun. It's you learn new skills like editing the videos, and so there's a lot of good things that have come out of it as well. Yeah, sure. And just as a bit of context, we're at Simpson's today recording this, and you've got a bit of history with this place, which we're going to go into later on. So I mean, with you're operating the Stu Deeley at Home from here. So was it just a case of it was something you wanted to do, and you just kind of knocked on Andreas and Luke's door and said, is it all right if I operate from here? Yeah, I mean, my kind of history with Simpsons goes quite far back now, and Luke and Andreas have always been so supportive of me in every kind of avenue of my career. And when I kind of said to Andreas, I've got this idea to do a takeaway to kind of keep me active and keep me doing something during lockdown, because sitting at home, I was just going crazy. I'm that type of person that I need to be doing something all the time. And Andreas was like, yeah, great idea, let's get it going. And to be honest, Andreas has been a massive driving force in it. He's the one that's making sure the packaging is right. Like I said, he's been a massive part of my career.
Yeah, sure. So it was something that came about as because you were hoping to have had your new venture up and running by now, weren't you? So it was kind of something to fill a bit of a void while all this kind of pandemic's going on.
Yeah, it's always about finding kind of ways to be current, to keep yourself doing what you enjoy doing, and I enjoy cooking. It's really what I was put on earth to do, I think, because I really, really just love it. And when all that happened and I couldn't be in a kitchen, it was almost like I felt that feeling of being lost, like not knowing what to do, especially off the back of such a high of like MasterChef and everything else. And then having a few months of doing like pop-ups, and so it was quite an intense few months to then just suddenly stop that, and for maybe like 8-10 weeks of doing nothing. I mean, I've never felt like I've got a dad bod until now.
Yeah. It's one of the few like good things that's come out of this lockdown, actually, particularly like food and like in Birmingham, the independents have all kind of adapted and done this sort of takeout, home delivery stuff really well, haven't they?
Yeah, I think my Instagram feed throughout the whole of lockdown was food and runners. Everyone become a runner and everyone become a foodie, and you know they were two things that everyone had in common, and myself included. I ran for about half a mile and then decided to retire, so My
Same
running
here.
career's over.
Yeah, I've definitely become a foodie, not so much the runner. Same here as well. I'm with you on that one. You kind of led me on nicely to my next question. We're going to get on a bit later about your career and also obviously MasterChef, but let's rewind all the way back to young Stu first of all, and when you guys worked out what you wanted to do with yourself and how you found food and cooking and how that became, this is what I want to do as a career.
So I remember being about 14 and saying to my mum and dad that I decided I wanted to be a chef, and they were like, oh yeah, of course you do, you know, as all parents do when you kind of flick from one job to another. But that was one that really kind of stood out for me, because when I was in the kitchen I felt that kind of freedom. I felt like I was actually learning something, because I've always been a practical person. The kind of sitting down and doing the academic kind of thing with school, it was never really my thing. I'd rather go and bunk off, go over the field and do something else. And then cooking was my kind of release. And I even found out doing cooking at school and then going to college, that was really where the kind of education process started for me. So going and cooking every day and learning about the history of cooking and who invented this style of cooking, who invented that, and that's really where my eyes were open to the world.
Yeah, they interviewed your dad before the MasterChef final, didn't they? And he said, he was useless at school, so he was never going to be an academic.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't hold back.
So when was the light bulb moment then? It was like, this is what the career I want to go into.
I think when I was about 14, but I didn't get my real taste of a kitchen until I was about, I think it was 15, and walked into Jonathan's that was on Hagley Road at the time, and I walked into the reception and they said, the staff entrance is round the back, and I walked around the back, and as I was walking towards the kitchen, I could hear like the speakers kind of booming from about 20 feet away from the kitchen door already, and there was a guy sat on a motorbike smoking a fag wearing a chef jacket, and I thought, yeah, this is a bit of me.
It's the new rock and roll.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, it is now. I mean, the last 20 years or so, chefs are like footballers or film stars, aren't they? They're all on TV. They're really popular in popular culture.
Yeah, I wish if we were paid like footballers, but it's one of those things. I think we all do it because we love what we do, and we love that kind of creative element of the job, and just being able to do something different.
Sure. And then you went to Halesowen College to kind of pursue the passion, and then so what was the timeline from there in terms of the career taking off?
So I started at Halesowen College when I was 17, and I left when I was 20. But in those kind of 3 years, because I was one of the few actually at Halesowen that did 3 years, because after the year that I left, they then changed the course to just 2 years rather than 3. So I think in a positive way, it was beneficial for me, because at the same time as being at college, I was getting out in the industry, I was seeing new things, I was kind of doing a lot of research, looking at other chefs, looking at recipes, and it gave me time to kind of grow into being a chef rather than just rushing into it and being terrified from day one. So I almost felt really at home from the first day of cooking full-time, because I was prepared for it at college.
Yeah, and you've kind of gone on to do a bit of everything, haven't you? Because you've done Michelin star kitchens, you've done hotels, you've done agency work. So, like, what was the first? Where was the first real position that you got then?
The first full-time cooking job I ever had was Jamie's Italian. Was Jamie's Italian in town, and I remember it being so busy because it had only just opened. We're doing like maybe 400 people a day, and I loved just being able to cook, and it doesn't matter what style of food it was, I just really enjoyed it. But I remember thinking to myself at the time that it's actually too full on. Like, I want to see something that's more delicate. I want to see lots of precision on the plate. And I left there to go to Love's Restaurant, which was on Canal Square at the time. As things go, I actually don't get on with Steve anymore, which is unfortunate because he's a bit of a tool. But it was it was a learning curve. It was about seeing what he was doing at the time. It was about seeing what fine dining was in Birmingham, and it was it was like, okay, this is a beetroot salad, but there's 8 different varieties of beetroot on here, and that was opening my eyes to something different that I'd never seen before. being a lad that grew up in Birmingham, you know, you don't see a beetroot salad made out of 8 different types of beetroot. You just see faggots and peas.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah, Steve, if you're listening, well, we'll leave it at that. So.
Tool.
And then from there, where was next?
From there, so I then kind of hop, skipped and jumped to Brockencote Hall, just outside of Worcester. And that was great because that was a 4 Red Star hotel, 2 rosettes at the time when I joined there. And it was working with a chef called Adam Brown, and he was, you know, he'd worked in 2 Michelin star, 3 Michelin star restaurants, but he'd gone on then to go back to the hotel side of things, and it was good. It was good to see a variety of things, whether you were catering for a wedding or you were cooking for the restaurant. You got to learn a lot of different skills, making terrines, just doing everything, covering the basics in a lot of detail, which really kind of laid the foundations for me.
And then moving on from there, back over this way, was it?
Yeah, so after Brockencote, I decided, okay, I need to get in a kitchen that has got a Michelin star, because even though at Brockencote we were pushing as hard as we could to get a star, it wasn't really compatible with the offering, because Brockencote has one kitchen that provides weddings, restaurants, afternoon tea. It's just not primarily focused around just a restaurant, which I wanted to do. So then I looked around kind of in Birmingham at the time to see what was the best fit for me, and then I decided, okay, I'll apply for Simpsons. If I don't hear anything back, I'll try somewhere else. So I applied, and this was about 3:00 in the afternoon. 4:00, Luke rang me, said, can you come in for a trial next Thursday? I said, yeah. So came down, come and did my trial, and absolutely loved it. Everyone was so nice, and Luke is just, you know, a proper old school gentleman. You know, he's kind of almost like a dad as much as he is a chef in the kitchen, because he wants you to progress, and he nurtures you and whatever. And I thought, I'll definitely give this a go. And 3 years later, after doing that,
would you say this is the place where it really started to come together for you then?
Yeah, Simpsons was definitely the making mark for me, because it was learning, obviously, the foundations of everything that I learned at Brockencote Hall, but then it was taking it to another level. It was getting that finesse of a Michelin star restaurant and giving the ultimate product. It's about always trying to better the product and trying to also, you know, kind of then... That was something that I really learned at the time. It's about filtering what you learn down to the people beneath you as well. So I was here at Simpsons for around, I think, 3 months when I got promoted. So to come to Simpsons, I had to go back to the bottom of the ladder. So I started as a commie, and then Luke kind of took me to one side one day and said, we're going to promote you to a chef de partie. So that's the next rank up. So that means that you're looking after a section in part of the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it was all based upon my staff food making abilities, because he could see that I really had kind of care for everyone else, which is something that he's really big on, everyone else in the kitchen. And he decided, because I've got that same mentality, that it was time to take the next step up.
That's a big testament to your ability there, from you know, to get that kind of immediate praise from Luke. And I mean, it's an institution, isn't it? This place in Birmingham, and we've got 5 Michelin stars now, but this is the one really that sticks out, isn't it? When you mention kind of Birmingham top restaurants to people. When
you look at chefs that are from Birmingham, that have stayed in Birmingham, there's so many that have passed through Simpsons at some time in their career. You know, look at Glyn. Glyn was sous chef at Simpsons when it was in Kenilworth. Obviously Luke. You know, there's Andy Waters. So many great Birmingham chefs.
So you're here for 3 years, and then little Jack came along and changed everything, didn't he? Is that why you had to move on and do something else? Yeah.
So Tash kind of went home early one night, and then when I got home, she sat me down and she said, I think there's something I need to tell you. And I thought, oh God, what is it? And she said, I think I'm pregnant. And I thought, oh God, what am I going to do now? Because I was really kind of making progress at Simpsons, but I was at the point where, you know, I needed to keep going for maybe another couple of years to then take the next step. But I had to kind of take that step early, because I needed to go for a job that was higher paid, obviously with a higher pay comes higher responsibility. So I went over to a place in Lichfield to kind of run that as head chef. That didn't really work out, but it was quite a hasty move. I then went from there to doing agency, and I was actually working as an agency chef when Jack was born.
Yeah, I think what people forget is as well, it's obviously a great career, but when you're trying to factor in stuff like that, it's a really unsociable job, isn't it, in terms of the hours of the day you've got to work and fitting all that around family life, especially when you've got a newborn.
Yeah, it's unsociable, and at certain points in your career, up until you get to a certain level, you have to make sacrifices. You know, if you want to learn in the best places and just kind of get as much experience as you can, you have to do that.
Sure. So when that agency period came to an end, was that when you ended up at the Wilderness then? Yeah,
so one of my college lecturers, who I'm actually still in contact with like so often, Chris Hughes, he's an investor in the Wilderness, and he was also great friends with Alex at the time, and obviously we're great friends as well. And he said, do you fancy popping and seeing Alex for a little bit of a chat about you might be able to go and help them out, because I know they're looking for a chef, etc. And then I went to go and meet Alex, and he was absolutely bonkers, as he is. You know, he's a nice guy. And then went over to see him, and he said to me, do you maybe want to come across and do a sous chef position? And at the time it was based on Dudley Street next to a little phone box, and it, you know, going from like the grandeur of like somewhere like Simpsons, where you've got meters and meters of space, to then basically like a broom cupboard with a separate little kitchen on the side. And we, at some points, I think there was 4 or 5 of us in that kitchen that was literally the size of a pantry. And I was like, you know what, let's give it a go, let's see what we can do. Because I'd come from a good background, a good understanding of what good quality food is, and I wanted to kind of have my own mark on something. So then kind of said to Alex, yeah, I'll do it, but I want to kind of have an input on the menu, I want an input on the creativity side of it, which was fine by Alex, because he wanted to take a step back from the cooking. So then as he started to ease off the gas, I was putting more pressure on myself to get dishes onto the menu and whatever else. And then when we moved across to the jewellery quarter, Alex said, I'm going to look for a head chef. And I said, rather than looking for one, let me be the head chef.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, we'll give you a go at it. We'll give you a 3-month probation period. And we had a good kind of run at it, and we got 3 rosettes. We had numerous Michelin inspections, and just a good time. We had a lot of good dishes on the menu, and it was really where I found my own style.
Yeah, and it's Alex Claridge, for people who don't know, that you're talking about, is another big deal in culinary terms. Why is he bonkers then?
He's just, he thinks a lot differently to everyone else, because he's not from a cooking background, because his background is actually, he's a trained accountant. So he's happened to just fall upon the restaurant business as a twist of fate, I guess. So he doesn't look at everything from a classical point of view. He looks at it from maybe like an art or kind of influential kind of background.
Yeah, did I read that you turned him down a couple of times as well?
We had a kind of a bumpy kind of history before I ended up at the Wilderness, because I was working at Simpsons when we first met, and he said, do you fancy coming over to kind of work here? And I thought, no chance. Like, I don't want to go and work there. Why would I do that? I want to go and work in a 2 Michelin star restaurant, because that was always the plan. I wanted to go to Le Champignon Sauvage or somewhere, with 2 Michelin stars, that I could kind of not be too far away from home, but I could take my career to the next level.
Yeah.
But then when Jack came along, in the best possible way, he put the stopper on that.
Kind of leads us nicely on to MasterChef, which is where most people will be sort of familiar with you from. And you said quite frequently that Jack, your little boy, was your inspiration behind applying for it. So can you remember the process of applying for the show, and how long you spent mulling over it, and what you actually had to do to get on there?
I think subconsciously I've always thought about going on MasterChef for as long as I've been cooking and for as long as I've watched the programme. And I've always told myself when I've thought about it, no, don't be silly, like you're not going to be able to win it, you're not going to be able to go for it, just because I've always suffered with like confidence issues in my own ability, and also just the thought of what if someone says something about me and I don't like it, and I don't want to be the limelight, I don't want to be that person. But then when Jack came along, it was that feeling of like, you know, you just need to grab any opportunity you have with both hands. And for me to tell Jack that, I have to do that myself. So I thought to myself, let's just do it. Let's give it a go. If I get through the first round and I don't embarrass myself, happy days. I've made a bit of progress. So then the first round came around, and it was terrifying. The skills test went absolutely south. And I thought to myself, I'm going home here. And then when I got through the first round, I was like, oh, brilliant. You know, we've made a bit of progress. We got through the first round. And then as each round come by, it just got a little bit easier and easier. And actually, I was just me, which was the best part about it. You know, I didn't feel pressured to be anything but who I am.
Just going back a little bit then into the sort of, because we only see what goes out on TV, which is this kind of half an hour long condensed version of all these chefs dashing around trying to get their dish done, ready for the judges or whatever. So you get your response to say you've been accepted onto the show, and then kind of what happens next? That they said you've got to get here for this date for this particular first round of filming or whatever. What actually happens?
So you apply, you send off, you know, kind of normal application forms, you do a video application as well, and then if you're successful with that part, they arrange like a face-to-face meeting where they want to know a little bit more about you, your cooking style, your background, everything else. So mine was actually in Bristol. So I remember I was still kind of working that day as well at the Wilderness, and we were only open for dinner on that day. So I drove down in the morning, did my interview in Bristol at a hotel, and then drove back and did dinner service on the night. And I thought, yeah, it went really well, but I thought I probably won't make it as far as getting onto the TV. And then I had a response, I think about 2 weeks later, saying, we'd like to have you on the show. This is when it's going to start. And I thought, oh, okay, brilliant. So, and then I looked at my calendar and I was like, oh, God. So I was actually on holiday the day that it started.
Oh, no.
But fortunately, I was only in Cornwall. So I actually just drove from Cornwall to London the day before the show started. So it was an 8.5 hour drive from Cornwall to London, and then got in the hotel absolutely knackered. Woke up the next morning thinking, oh yeah, everything's fine. Felt really relaxed, felt really calm. And then kind of got to the little cabin where they sit you and just keep you waiting until it's your turn to do the skill test. And then I remember getting into the kitchen. I looked across at them and thought, this bench is nowhere near as big as it looks on TV. They are a lot closer and they can see everything I'm doing, because they weren't COVID distance apart.
No.
It was, they were right on top of you. So then that's when the kind of nerves started to kick in, and to the point that I couldn't even get my apron on. I think they had to edit the part where I put my apron on by about 3 minutes, because it took that long to tie the apron.
You're counting every single pea that's going on
your
plate, yeah. So round to round then, what's the schedule like there? You get through the first round, and then is it, when do you come back for the next? What were the gaps like between?
So
filming?
From the start of filming, I mean, kind of after the first round, so the second round in to the end of the process, I didn't take a day off. So I would film, go back to work, and then normally the filming would be either on a weekend or it would be the start of the week. So I was basically just going from work to filming and vice versa.
So you kind of got a week's gap between having to think about and plan what you were going to do for the next...
Yeah, mostly. Some of the rounds would be a couple of weeks, but even then you were practicing. You wanted to be on the ball with what you were doing, because you're about to be on TV for millions of people to see, so you don't want to embarrass yourself.
So in your head then, when you're trying to work and you're in your brain, you're trying to separate delivering the goods for your job, but also thinking about, well, next week I'm cooking in front of a sort of TV audience again. How do you kind of compartmentalise that?
It's just a coping strategy. I think I'm quite good at just coping with situations and not getting stressed. And that was one of the things that really came in quite useful, because you have to just almost distance yourself away from that feeling of, oh my God, I'm under so much pressure, I need to do this. You just need to just take it one step at a time, just almost like have a tick box in your head of like, right, I've done that, and getting the recipes ready for MasterChef whilst also having to do dinner service at the restaurant, to then the next morning get on a train to go, it's mental.
So as the rounds went along then, I mean, what you said it was kind of all about, first of all, I've got to get past the first round, as otherwise it's a bit of a failure. But as the rounds went along, at what point did you actually think, I've got a chance here, then I could win it?
I didn't at all.
Really? Even when you've been to the last couple of shows? No.
Definitely not. I think it could have been anyone's. It all depended on the day, just because it was so close. Between everyone, really down to like the last 10 people, there wasn't a bad cook in the room, so it all depended on who produced the goods on the day, and it was great for that reason as well, because there's certain points in your career, especially for me now, because when I'm kind of working as a head chef or whatever, you're sometimes lacking someone to give you a kick in the backside, so it was good to see those other chefs and see what they were doing, and that made me raise my game as well.
And the final came along, and obviously you've gone and filmed it and won it, but you've got to keep it top secret for quite a few days, hadn't you, from everybody?
Yeah, I mean, you have to keep the whole thing a secret so I think we filmed from May to I think it was May to about July, August, and you have to keep it secret then up until basically Christmas Day. Well, near enough. I think it's the day before Christmas Eve that the final airs. But I'll be honest, it was probably Birmingham's worst kept secret, because you mention it to one or two people that like, oh, I've been on MasterChef, but don't tell anyone. And then all of a sudden you get someone come up to you in the street and say, have you been on MasterChef? And you're like, oh my God, what have I done?
But the final itself, you've got people knew you've got to the final, but you couldn't tell them that you'd actually won.
Yeah.
How long do you have to? Was that a week as well? You've got to keep that to yourself for? Or?
No, I think quite a few people knew that I was on MasterChef, but anyone that asked me, obviously, I just told them, oh no, I went out in the third round.
Okay.
You just have to lie to them a little bit, but it's okay, because lying sometimes is okay, kids. Sometimes.
But even going into work, they must have been giving you a little dig in the ribs, trying to get some little tip off out of you.
Yeah, even down to the point of, I remember, I hope no one from the BBC is listening to this. I mean, I hope you have a great break and they take you for the BBC, but don't listen to this. No, I remember a few days before the final aired, and I just kind of gave in and told the lads at work, okay, you've got to keep this top secret, but I'm going to tell you what happened. And then I was explaining, and I kind of went through the whole process, and I said, and then they called out, Jose Olivia Stu, the winner of MasterChef is, and then I kind of made out as if I didn't win. And then when I did tell them, there was tables flipping, there was chairs falling everywhere. Everyone went mental, and it was such a great memory. I remember like that feeling of like, I think everyone else is more excited than I am.
You got any particular highlights from the show? I mean, I know there must have been loads but any real absolute moments that you'll treasure? I mean, the chef's table must have been pretty extraordinary, because weren't there like 26 Michelin stars in the between them?
Yeah, so that's one memory that will really last with me forever. 22, I think there was 22 chefs, but between them they had 26 Michelin stars. That's not something that many chefs can say that they've done, never mind, without even having a Michelin star myself. But it was such a great experience to do something like that, and to have critique from these guys in the industry that really are spearheading the industry.
And one of the first people you saw was Glyn, and to have another Brummy there.
Yeah, Glyn's brilliant. I think I'd be lying if I said that wasn't set up a little bit, because Glyn knew of me already, because actually when I was, I think I was about 17, and I used to do the washing up at the Asquith for Glyn when he had the old Jessica's. Yeah.
You're completely shattering all the illusions of TV drama here now. So
yeah, like I said, if the BBC's watching, I've got no money. Don't bother trying to sue me.
You're never gonna get invited back on, are you? If they do a Champion of Champions or something.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I'm open to the offer.
What's more nerve-wracking than cooking under pressure for a really busy restaurant, or doing it on TV when the clock's ticking down?
I'd say cooking for a toddler. No, I think probably they've both got their moments where you really think I'm kind of in the you know what here. And like when you're cooking on MasterChef, you know that you've got a time limit and you need to be able to do what you want to do in that time limit. And we're actually, me and Nathan, the sous chef that is going to be joining me when the restaurant opens, we were talking about it yesterday, about the amount of stuff that I did in the 3 hours of that final. And there's certain points, well, even now, looking back on that list of jobs that I did for the final, I can't believe I actually got it all done. But then you do that in restaurants as well. Like you'll get the front of house come in and they'll say, okay, the first table's here, they're going to be sat in 10 minutes, and you're thinking, well, I haven't got anything ready yet.
I was just going to say, because we kind of watched the final back the other day as a bit of prep for this, and it was guinea fowl, wasn't it, that you made, and you said on camera, I'm a bit worried I'm not going to finish there, and that's pressure, isn't it, on TV? You know, you're cooking against the clock, but you can't send a friendly sort of front of house team member out to say, I'm so sorry, Greg, it's going to be just another 10 minutes. Is that all right?
It's not Greg that you got to worry about, it's Monica.
Bit of a dragon, or no?
No, she's lovely, but she's you don't want to get on the wrong side of her.
You got some extraordinary compliments though, didn't you? Like Marcus said, that's one of the best guinea fowl dishes I've ever eaten. Yeah,
that was kind of mind-blowing alone. Like, if I didn't win, I'd just be happy with taking that away, to be honest, because that's become almost like one of my staple dishes. It's become one of those dishes that I just love because it's full of so much flavour and it holds that kind of that memory for me as well.
Sure. So the result then, they're about to read the name of the winner out. What's going through your head?
I was just getting ready to congratulate Olivia, to be honest, because we, in between kind of finishing cooking and them announcing the result, we all had a look at each other's dishes, and I thought, you know what, mine looks okay, but an exose, had a few problems on the day, so that's always going to complicate things. But I thought Olivia's looked stunning, as did exose's, but I thought Olivia had the edge, and to the point of you actually see me when they announce my name, kind of turning, my body shape kind of changes as I turn to the side to kind of embrace Olivia to say well done, and then they announced my name and it was just pure shock. I just couldn't get any words out, to be honest. I
think that's probably what people watching don't appreciate, that you're that focused on what you're doing. I guess you haven't even put a minute's thought into what the others are making.
Yeah, you don't. I can honestly say I think I probably tried about 2 other dishes throughout the whole competition that weren't mine, and I think the final was the first time where we really did that, where we looked at them and said, okay, so that's what you do, because we didn't really know what each other did until you watch it back.
Yeah. Where's the trophy now then?
It's upstairs.
Here?
Yeah.
You have to give us a look at it later on, but I'm sure it's going to take pride of place in the new restaurant when that eventually opens.
It's just keeping the door open upstairs.
Okay. Doorstop, yeah. What does it mean for you career-wise then, winning MasterChef?
Massive. It's massive. I think you have to have something in the pipeline already to enter MasterChef. You have to have an idea of what your style is. You have to have an idea of what your goal is if you were to win it, because that's the only way you're going to make the most out of it to get the full potential. But for me, it's opened so many doors. It's given me a platform to basically say to people, this is who I am, this is what I do. If you like it, here's where you can get it.
Okay. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Birmingham and the influence it's had on you, because you've worked at all these great places, including Simpsons, as we said, which is a real institution. But I mean, something that was really poignant that Greg Wallace said to you in the final, he said, I've never seen fusion done as well as you. And he said, you haven't learned these flavours by travelling the world, you've learned them from the streets that you live on. And I found that quite poignant. that he's picked up on that, about how the city's influenced your food and your style?
Oh yeah, it's such a big part of who I am, and I think, you know, as a Brummie, you can't escape where you're from just purely by the accent alone. But it's also the mentality of how you go about things, and I think not so long ago we did this kind of psychology session when we were looking at things for the restaurant, and we were talking about what makes a Brummie, and I said someone who's really caring about others. Obviously our accent, our kind of sense of belonging. We have identity because we are Brummies. That's what we identify as. And I think that's kind of something that shone through in my food, because when I think of a Brummie, I don't necessarily just think of someone with a Brummie accent. I think of all the different cultures that have found a home in Birmingham. So whether you go down Ladypool Road and you go and eat a balti there, or whether you eat jerk chicken, or, you know, Chinese food, Japanese food, it can be so many cultures. It's so diverse.
And it must be really great to be part of the food scene here now, because when we've said already it's got 5 Michelin stars, but it feels like over the last few years Birmingham has become like a real foodie city.
Yeah, I think, you know, if you went to someone in France and told them, okay, this is going to become one of the best places to eat in England for food, they would just laugh at you. But kind of us knowing how our Birmingham food industry is, we're going from strength to strength. There's independents that open month after month that have a great offering, you know, whether it's, like I said, any kind of culture, any kind of cuisine, we have it ticked.
Could you imagine working anywhere else, given how much Birmingham's influenced your cooking? Because I think you said somewhere you were asked if you'd go to London, and you said it'd take footballers' wages to get you to move.
There's no chance. I'm stuck to Birmingham for life. You know, I'm here for the long term. Just I want to achieve everything that I can in Birmingham. I want the restaurant to open, and I want it to be all about Birmingham.
And what we've just talked about, there's no reason, is there, to go anywhere else?
No, exactly. You know, we have everything we need here, and I want to bring Jack up as a proud little Brummie as well.
Before we wrap up then, let's talk a bit about what the future holds, because you left your role at the Wilderness a few months ago with a view to setting up your own restaurant, which you've alluded to, and I guess it's been on the back burner a little bit because of everything that's going on in the world. So what can you tell us about the new venture? I mean, there's certain elements that are a bit top secret, and you haven't. I mean, I know you haven't even got a name for it yet. But what can you tell us?
I can be a little bit of a tease. I mean, I can't give away too much. Obviously, as I said, it's going to be a Brummie restaurant. That's what we're kind of going to call it. It's going to be Brummie fusion food, so it's going to be about all the spices, or even whether it be, you know, kind of a twist on faggots, things like that, things that are kind of associated to Birmingham. And we want to keep that industrial feel to it. We want it to be almost like if Peaky Blinders had a restaurant. There you go. That's what we're going to offer. But we're hoping that we can be open by, let's say, either the end of this year, if not the start of next. Just because this has delayed everything, but in the grand scheme of things, it's probably not that bad, because it's give us time to reflect on exactly what we want. Because leading up to obviously the lockdown, I was working 7 days a week for a long period of time, and it wasn't giving me that chance to break away and think, actually, that'd be a great idea for the restaurant, or that'd be a great idea. So that, in a weird way, this has given us a chance to reflect on what's going to be the best experience that we can offer.
Sure, and you've got a location penciled in, haven't you?
Yeah, we've got I like how you're pushing it.
It's got to be done, hasn't it?
Oh no, of course. Yeah, we've got a location. It's not too far from here. I'd say it's probably about 1.5 miles in any direction. So, yeah.
Get your map out, your
Yeah.
Google Maps. Yeah, and Tash is going to be involved with
So Tash is going to be involved. Jack's going to be on the pot wash. So for anyone that doesn't know, Tash is my missus. That when I rang her at the very final scene of MasterChef and said, "I've just won MasterChef," she said, "Oh, I can't talk. I'm in M&S." So yeah, she's going to be running the front of house. She's got a great wealth of experience in brilliant restaurants and hotels from Birmingham and London, being the restaurant manager at Simpsons, so she's got a lot of experience with it. but it just means that she can have more of a friendly role, so that she'll be able to be at home and kind of see to Jack's wants and demands, and also to kind of be there when I need her at the restaurant.
I didn't realise she was in the same field as is that how you met? Or?
Yeah. So we actually met at Simpsons. I mean, this is where, if she listens to this, she's going to absolutely clap me around the back of the head, because I think it was about 5 years ago, hit or miss, ish.
Do you let her do any of the cooking at home then, or
all of it? Yeah, I let her do all the cooking.
Give yourself a bit of.
No, to be honest, I'm a big fiend for takeaways. I love takeaways. That's one of my biggest guilty pleasures. Whether it be a kebab or peri-peri chicken, anything, love it. But Tash does a lot of the cooking. I try and do as much of the cooking as I can, but it's like saying to a builder, after you've finished building a house, you're going to go home
and work on your own.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure. Right, let's watch this space then, and hopefully later on in 2020 or early next year, when the dust settles on all of this and we're back to some kind of normality. But finally then, this is the Epic Brum podcast, and we ask everybody this to finish off. What makes Birmingham epic?
The people. Simple, the people. Everyone in Birmingham is epic. They, like I said, the cultural diversity, the fact that Brummies are just the most kind-hearted people you'll ever find. You definitely know that if you've taken a recent trip to London.
And self-deprecating as well, I always think, prepared to take the mick out of ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, someone has to, because, no matter where you go, if it's half an hour out of Birmingham, you just hear that Brummie.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for doing this again, and good luck with everything.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for tuning in to the Epic Brum podcast. If you like what you heard, you can find more episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever else you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Epic Brum HQ.